I don't know about you, friends, but I think these transfer rumors are trying to test our resolve. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. It's getting to that point of the window, isn't it? We're sort of in that weird valley where we've made some moves, but not as many as we need to make. The dominoes haven't all fallen, and now there's a little bit of panic and desperation seeping into some of the conversation, and the rumors reflect it in the sense that I think all of our usual favorite media outlets that like to cover this stuff have gone in on us. They've said, oh, I got a rumor that's really going to put them on edge. I'm going to link them to someone they've never heard of before. All right, here we go. We're going to tee it up, and then everybody goes crazy. So we're going to discuss a few rumors. We're going to discuss, I think, the timing of the season today, which hopefully will make some sense when we actually get into the topic. Maybe finally get Clive talking about 5 subs. I don't think he wants to. He's never expressed that he wants to, but I'm going to see if I can tease something out of him. I will mention just briefly, there is a rumor in the ether that may or may not relate to Arsenal that will not be covered, will not be discussed. We just cannot do it. If that changes, obviously we will, but I hope everyone can understand that. And so with that, I would like to welcome Paul, who's on Twitter at PosMonPants. Hello, Pos.
Woohoo!
And Clive, you can find him on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
And Tim, you can find him on Twitter at Roberto. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
Hello there indeed. And I just want to say, congratulations, America. We've been knocked off the front page of the world papers by what's going on in the UK. My English friends, you guys have done it. You've one-upped us with what's going on with your democracy. So congratulations to you as we get a break from being lampooned globally. So thank you for that, Clive and Tim. We really appreciate
it. Yeah, we've finally done it, shall we say?
Yes. Yeah.
Or not
Turn
before
about
time.
Fair play. Yeah.
I hereby resign, by the way.
Yeah, well, it's the trendy thing, I hear.
Hang around for a bit, though, Tim. Stay in charge and just sort of like pop around. Do what you like, mate. Have some fun with it.
Yeah, well. So look, I just want to quickly say thank you to Arda. Arda is a listener and patron who runs a coffee business at boxcoffee.la, BOXX coffee.la. And he just sent me some coffee. And it's absolutely fantastic. Like, it's really, really fantastic. So I said, you know what? I'll at least mention it on the podcast. He's like, well, here's a promo code, ArsenalVision. So if you want some of his fantastic coffee, a listener, a fan, a patron of this podcast, and someone who makes great coffee, you get it. It's fresh roasted and with a date on the bottom telling you when to start to grind it up and have it. And if you want to try it, it's boxcoffee.la, BOXX, coffee.la. Thank you, Arda, very much. Okay.
Well, that's very nice for you, Elliot. You got some free coffee. That's very nice for you.
Yeah, you'd be stunned, Paul, at how much free stuff gets sent to me that I don't send to you guys. I don't tell you about. I don't indicate that it's happened. Mostly behind the scenes, I just complain about how much time the podcast takes up and how little I get in return for it. But now I'm getting free coffee. Okay, nice. It's a joke. All jokes today. We got to keep it light. We got to keep our spirits up. And one of the reasons we got to keep our spirits up is we have been linked. That's right. We have been linked to, it says here, Eden Zagrova. And Paul, I'm not prepared to believe it. I am curious if you are prepared to believe it.
I think it's like Boris Johnson's ministerial appointments. These rumors come, and then as soon as they arrive, they are denied, leave the building, say they never heard of us, which is ironic because we've never heard of them or the journalist from, no offense, haven't been reading the Bosnian Express.
I mean, to be fair, if anyone
edition.
would know, he is, I think he's from Kosovo. And I think that the journalist is knowledgeable, obviously, of the player and of the circumstance. But like, it doesn't make any sense, does it, Paul? It's not a move that fits any need I can identify.
So this is the chap from Lille, right? The winger from Lille.
Yes. 23 years old. I think he played about 500 minutes. Apparently, we were following him when he was at Basel.
Yeah.
But like, there's just not much there.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, has hardly played.
Yeah. And like when I said Bosnian, it's because the tweet said the journalist was Bosnian. It's not because I don't know my...
No problem. We're all learning in real time here.
My Balkan geography is up to snuff. Look, He hasn't played very much. He has some YouTube highlights that I've seen. His highlights are tasty enough, but they're short. They start going into, when they head into training videos, what he done, and under 21 stuff on a pitch with the two managers from either side, and the manager's wife shows up with a flask of tea because it's cold and a sandwich, and those are the three people in the stadium. So there's some of that video as well. He looks kind of...
Not exactly the top level, you telling me?
He might be. But it doesn't have the hallmark of, it doesn't have that NFT blockchain, you can trust this quality. Michael Owen did say he guaranteed the guy's performances. Who knows? But it certainly sent shivers through Arsenal supporters with the Lille winger link, which is probably a little harsh. We're still recovering from the last one. And
there are Lille wingers that we would have been very fortunate to get.
Yeah,
it's just not how it turned out for us.
Yeah, I didn't really have that effect, it didn't have that effect on me, but it had that effect on plenty based on the Twitters, which you can trust in terms of reactions. So I don't know. We do need a forward. We need a midfielder, and we need a defender. So
yeah,
I guess rumors are going to keep cranking till we nail down one in each section, and then we'll see how greedy we get. So, yeah, I guess the rumors will keep coming. I guess the question is there a better forward-linked rumor at the moment that's out there?
Than Zagrova?
Yeah.
Literally any linking us to not buying a player would be better. Look, here's the way I look at this, right? And I get that there are going to be some people like, I don't get it. He looks fine on YouTube, and he did okay at Lille, and I sort of put it this way. He's a 23-year-old who's never really broken through. He had 1,600 minutes once in his career at Basel, and other than that, he's hardly played. And that doesn't mean he can't be good. But I think we would all agree. Our store, if you want to think of Arsenal as a store, right, we are overstocked in talented young forwards who still have to prove themselves. Saka might have graduated out of that group, but we got Saka, we got Nketiah, we got Smith Rowe, we got Gabriel Martinelli, we got Marquinhos.
It does.
The thing this club needs is one more 24, 25-year-old with pedigree to step in and be ready to play important games. The last thing we need is another punt. Now, you can say, look, at 11 million, who cares? And there is some argument to say, if you acquire a lot, if you get a lot of shots on goal, as they say, right? If you acquire enough cheap talent that you think you see something in, you don't need all of them to hit. You just need one of them to hit or a couple of them to hit. And we have had decent luck with that because Martinelli hit and Guendouzi hit, and, obviously didn't end the way we might have liked it. And so maybe there's something to be said for that. But from a squad building standpoint right now, we're in the opposite position of needing young, unproven talent. We need the entering prime proven guys, more of the Jesus type buys. We all, by the way, already bought Vieira, who's more in the sort of borderline one for the future one, but Marquinhos definitely in that category. And I'm not sure that another one fits the bill for where we're at in our process. Clive, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this because I don't think it's particularly real, but I guess there is the angle of just this as a strategy. Do you buy into the idea that more shots on goal is always good? If you want to buy young players cheap, always do it, or is this just one more than we actually need?
And also, what is the profile for a forward right now in terms of age and ability and because he's good?
This ain't it, Paul. This ain't it.
Yeah,
this guy has no experience. He's not very good.
Who would you put as the competitor back up to Saka? What age, what skill level? Probably needs to be scoring goals for somebody, but who'd come in to compete with Saka? I guess is the question.
Yeah. Clive?
Yeah.
What is the answer?
So I'll just give you my thoughts. Funny enough, when the name came up, you know what I do? I go straight to YouTube. And his name came up about 3-4 months ago as an Arsenal link. And I thought, I remember watching the same video that I was 3/4 way through, popped up. I thought, okay, I remember you. So I thought, okay, there's a rumor out there for Fabrizio, whatever his name is, sort of said that there's an Arsenal player that they're working on that no one knows of. The next day, this comes out and everyone's linking the two together, right? So, the only thing I would say is, if we are going to replace Saka, I don't know who it's going to be. If it's this, but it needs to be somebody that plays this level of intensity. And it needs to be an intense sprinter.
Just so we're clear, so people don't freak out, Clive. When you say replace, you mean when he's subbed off or not playing?
Thank you for putting me up.
Because that gave me heart palpitations.
At the moment, when Saka's not on the team sheet, we all cry ourselves to sleep, right? So that needs to change. And the only player that can remotely do what Saka does is probably Marcelli, but it's a right footer. So we have nobody that mirrors him. We have 2 on the left, we have 2 at centre forward, we have 1 on the right, assuming that Pepe is out of the building, right? So we do need somebody that plays off the right, can probably play both sides with a sprinter's technique, right? So he's a definite sprinter. He can definitely do the old chop inside and shoot and all the rest of it. And he plays the level of intensity and pressing ability. So I look at it profile-wise and say, that's interesting. Then you look at the backstory, as you guys alluded to. Arrived at Basel in January, and suddenly Arsenal looking at him. But Arsenal looking at end of last season. And I find I don't dismiss these type of things so easily, particularly when Lille are involved, because we've done a bit of business with them in the past, right? And the wheels of football turn in many different ways, right? And the financials in the past, potentially we've overpaid for one, underpaid for another. Who knows what the deal is between Arsenal and Lille? So I look at it football-wise and say, yeah, I get it. As I'm still healing from Rafinha, this is a big sort of reputation drop down, do you see what I mean? And a cost perspective. And I think we need that level of player to come in to make us all feel confident that we can get the goals that we need. But profile-wise and talent-wise, looks a very interesting player. Do you want to carry Arsenal Football Club when our superstar's not there? I'm not sure you can. So, but I always find players like this interesting to watch. So I'll keep my eyes on it. And it'd be an Arsenal thing to do. Trust me. Don't dismiss it 100%.
Yeah, and to be clear, the player might be talented. Here's the thing I want to say to people: he looks good on YouTube. He could be very talented. How do you know? I don't. Every player could be very talented. Reece Nelson could be better than this guy. Every player who has arrived at the top level of football at 23 years of age is very talented and could wind up being very good. The question is, where are we in our development and what do we need? Because we're developing Smith Rowe, and we're developing Gabriel Martinelli, and presumably we'll start developing Marquinhos, and we're developing Vieira, and we're developing Sambi Lakanga, and we're developing Saka, although he may already be developed if you want to look at it that way. And you got all of that up front, Eddie Nketiah. We literally have, if Pepe leaves, one player I'd regard as really a senior established player, and it's Gabriel Jesus, and he just arrived. And so you're going to say to me, let's add another maybe could be good, let's develop him player who just turned 23, by the way. So he's not like a kid. He hasn't ever really established himself, although I get that he looks like he might have something about him. It just feels like the wrong piece at the wrong moment. 11 total starts between Basel and Lille this season. Yep, go ahead.
As you were talking, Elliot, I just got Patrice's Evra's words going through my mind that Arsenal are a finishing school.
That's never good.
Yeah, and they're a finishing school.
Yeah.
And it always bothered me, that did. And at some point, you see, this is partly our issue as well. And let's be honest, right? When we had Rafinha on the hook, we're all saying, what are we doing that for? Why are we spending that money on somebody who might not play? Right? Then when we have somebody that probably not experienced enough, well, he's not experienced enough. So it comes to a point we need to adjust our mindsets and say we've got to be happy with good players in the building because we can't do it with kids. You know what I mean? And unproven talents all the time. Let's not be too clever. But let's be comfortable with a 25-year-old costing 55 million as well. You know, we've got to be comfortable with one or the other. And for me, it's time to get serious and put a 25-year-old in our team because we spent a lot of time watching this project develop, and Jam tomorrow won't work for everybody much longer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And there may be people screaming at me, Tim, saying you're the one who's always talking about age curves and you're always talking about, needing to get potential and buy players that you can sell for more later. And yeah, of course, but every strategy has guidelines around it. And you have to be thoughtful about how you're doing it, right? The strategy can't just be, we'll buy 50 18-year-olds, nor can it be, we'll buy a couple of 70 million pound 30-year-olds. There has to be some thoughtfulness. And so I want to go on record as saying I don't think this is particularly true. I'll also go on record as saying if it winds up being true, I'm not even saying the player can't wind up being good, although I'm somewhat skeptical. But what I am saying is you reach a point where you have a number of players that are in that pre-prime, still developing stage, such that you no longer really need to address that aspect of your squad anymore. Not to mention that there are like, registration rules and homegrown requirements and things like that to always be mindful of. So, Tim, whether or not this rumor is accurate, do you think it's fair to say that we're at the point of the process now where it's big club time, right? It's add those 25, 26-year-olds who make this look like a grown-up team and not, an academy team.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that makes this rumor not make sense to me is the Marquinhos signing, because surely that's the young punt. I have to be careful about how I say that. No slip of the tongue there.
Yes.
Otherwise, might end up sounding like Clint Eastwood, actually. But yeah, so it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. And look, I know there aren't a lot of Rafinhas on the market, so I know it's perhaps it's difficult to say. Well, but I don't know. How do you go from a target like Rafinha to a target like this guy, unless you're really convinced, because it doesn't have the smell of a kind of, we think this guy's going to be the next big thing, otherwise he wouldn't be down the list,
Yeah.
So that in and of itself makes it a punt, right? And we've already kind of taken one of those in this position this season or this summer already. So that's why it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think to the point that Clive was making as well, in terms of our front three, really, it needs to be more of a front six. So we know Nketiah has been promoted, so that's Jesus and Nketiah. We already had quite a good situation with Smith Rowe and Martinelli. We got two guys pretty equal there for the left wing. It is that right wing piece. It is the fact that Pepe isn't really doing it. And actually one of the other questions I'm actually quite interested in is with the kind of Rafinha links. I was thinking, so there's a part of me that's thinking, look at what Spurs have done, for example, right? They've got 4 really good top class forwards for 3 positions, and there's Richarlison gives them a bit of fluidity in there. But I can't remember who it was. I know it's some people who listen to this podcast. But I saw a good discussion on my Twitter timeline last week about how we kind of assume that Saka is a right winger, and I saw it put that maybe he's just playing there because Pepe really hasn't been good enough. Maybe that spot was just vacant, and maybe there is another plan for Saka, and actually I'd be quite inclined to believe that if we'd gone for Rafinha and got him, that what we might well have seen is Rafinha on the right and Saka in that left 8 role. I really could have seen that. To be honest, I do think that that's a really good point. Is Saka just playing on the right because we definitely think that's his position, or is it just because there's no one else to play there and he can play anywhere? And this link really doesn't make you think that this guy's going to disrupt the team like that. What we need is goals, right? That's what I think we were going for, more threat, and it's something we need now, not in a year or two.
Yeah, and I'm inclined to also note that if you're someone who says, I don't really care what we spend 11 million pounds on, I sort of get it, but I think the extent to which we've kind of put that in the chump change category is wrong. And I do think we need to be the kind of club that is thoughtful about every 11 million pounds we spend, given that we can't seem to sell anybody for even a pound. So, it's something to consider. Paul, let's go beyond the 20-minute mark on Eden Zagrova rumors, which I thought would take, candidly, maybe 3 minutes. So, yeah, what do you want to say on this that hasn't been said yet?
It's really about Saka and the fact,
oh, good, better.
The one thing we all agree on is we need another attacker and we need more goals. I agree with Tim in terms of there's mileage in this Saka left 8 position. I think we all know, we can all see it in our mind that would work. but it is amazing how much airtime that gets. And again, I'm including me in this. I'm wondering why I think there's so much mileage in that, because he did it for 30 minutes against Spurs when we went down to 10 men, and he hasn't done it in a long time. But of all the guys who, if you like, have tried out in that spot, we've seen a bit of it from him in one game, and we know he can do anything. And it solves the Rafinha question. Why Rafinha? But it does come up quite a bit, and I wonder if there's real mileage in that. And personally, I think Vieira, that's why he's here, if any of our existing players are here. And the Rafinha thing's really interesting, because I think they were looking for an out-and-out duelist, that classic positional play of a guy who goes 1v1 and embarrasses his fullback time and time again to create overloads on that side. I do think it's a really interesting conversation, and there's a lot of intellectual puzzling about the Saka at left 8, and yet we've really never seen it. We just know it would work, and it answers some other quizzical things, but there's no data there, really, is there? I mean, I might be wrong, but there's the Spurs game, and beyond
City away a while back, the 1-0. Yeah, he played there, and hey, look, it doesn't take much superb football analysis to work out the kid can play almost anywhere apart from centre half and in goal, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess it's seeing if there's the intent there from the team, the coach. You know, we haven't actually seen the manager show his hand that that's actually the way he's leaning. So we're kind of projecting.
This is my little feeling, and I hear what Tim's saying. I get it. I've always had this thought that I also have a positional plan for him. And that positional plan will underpin his contract negotiations. And I think he's going to want to be more central. I honestly feel that, I know we don't need it at the moment, but I've always felt he could play the Odegaard role better. You know, I really think that. And different, should I say. Not better, different. And so he can play that role. He can play the 8 role. He can play left wing. He grew up as a left winger most of the time, always left side. He scores really well on his left foot from his left channel. You know, better he does with right foot from left foot from the right channel. I think he's got more accurate shot there. Rafinha, I know I said to you last week, that really disappoints me, that does. That really opens up so many options. It really does. Forget the player and his ability. The possibilities is what I feel disappointed about. Yeah. If that doesn't work out, I think the possibilities are just endless. The age, what he does on and off the ball, it's just like, oh man, that would have really given us a lift in confidence. But hey, it's probably
the work rate two ways. He would have given us all sorts of options.
Yeah. Well, so Clive, is there now that we can thankfully sort of move the conversation forward? I mean, is there a rumor floating around now that does pique your interest? I mean, I guess there was some ridiculous stuff on Twitter, as there always is year round, but especially during transfer time, that there was a Tesla in a parking lot at Arsenal that was Lisandro Martinez's agent. And, you know, if you're in the desert and someone offers you a drink, you take it. So people ran with that. There's been some Sergei Milinkovic-Savic links, and I know that's a player that you're excited about, but it does feel, you know what it feels like to me, Clive? It feels like we're in the part of the transfer window where the easy deals got done. The deals that clubs were working on a long time, that they already had 80, 90% of the way done, got across the finish line, they're done, right? Haaland to City, Nunez to Liverpool, Jesus to Arsenal, Richarlison and Bissouma to Spurs. You know, you can go through it. The deals that were in the pipeline went through the pipeline and they're done. And now we're in that period where the harder deals are floating around. Maybe the clubs are less sure it's the move for them, or the club they're negotiating with is harder to deal with, or, you know, the player hasn't made a decision yet on where they want to be, or there's dependencies, you know, interdependencies of, well, we'll sell you this player, but only if we get this player we're looking at. So do you think the issue now is that we're in that stage of the window, that these are the harder deals to get done, and maybe we have targets, but it's less clear that we can execute on them?
Yeah, so
not execute the targets, execute on the plan, if you know.
Yeah, I just rattle for the three of them, right? So
yep.
Tielemans is the one I've got a little bit of emotional investment in. I just think he's a good player, and I think the deal looks right. The age is right. He has a level of authority. He can play both ways, and he's instant passing with good pace of pass and banging shots. Just flipping do it, right? We need that authority in our midfield. Just do it, right? So that one I like. Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, he's my Halle Berry player, right? I really like her. I'm not going to get her. Do you know what I mean? Just like really nice football. I don't know what he is. I don't think he even fits us. Just that if you look at the YouTubes, you just can't turn away. He's just nice. He's just a nice footballer. Do I see him fitting at Arsenal? Well, I think he's more of a progressive running the box and Ramsey type arriver, and but really smooth on the ball when he's deeper. So I like him. I can't see him. I can see Tielemans. Do you know what I mean? I can see him. And I can see Lisandro Martinez as an inverted fullback, as we all spoke about before. Is that the role he wants? Don't know. Tactically and on the ball, he suits all the hipsters, where he pings it left, right, and in the centre, progressive passes. Looks really, really good. I have a little doubt about size and physicality. Don't have any doubts about him on the ball. Came from the Dutch League. Let's see how people move when they come from the Dutch League, come to the Premier League. If those movements are still that devastating, do you get the separation? So I have a little doubt there. So for those three signings, mate, Tielemans seems to be in the pocket. We've heard little rumours ourselves. I would like to see it done before we go to America. I think that will lift us. It's something that's been in the post for a while. So post a letter, get it done, and get him going to America. And I think it'd be really useful. And much like Rafinha, I think he provides options. He can play 6, he can play 8 both sides. And I like options and possibilities.
Yeah. I guess, Tim, the issue of what we need to do and the priority with which we need to do it are two different issues, right? Like I think it's sort of clear what we need. What the priority is seems to be a difference of opinion among people. But given that moves like Rafinha and Lisandro Martinez, which look exciting, and I'm not going to say that they're done, they're gone, but they look harder now and maybe are gone. The Tielemans one is the one that keeps coming back to me. It's like, look, we can get him. The fee's not bad. The player seems to want it. The club seems to be able to do it. He fits a need that we can all identify. And he's somewhere between a really good, solid Premier League player and maybe a very, very good one entering his prime and, really ready to contribute right away. And while there are players you want to go get who maybe you think can absolutely go nuclear and take you to another level, and maybe a Rafinha fits that profile. Hopefully a Gabriel Jesus does. We all know signings we've made to try to take us there. Some have worked, some haven't. You do have to get the players that are just really good, regular contributors to your team. You need that. And I think Tielemans is somewhere between that and something better than that. So does that strike you as the move that, like, and again, I could say, don't overthink it, Arsenal, and then they could pull something exquisite out of the bag that's way better than that. But that one feels like one we can just do. We can have it done in time for him to have a preseason with us and be a better club, be a better team this season. So how do you feel about that move? Because that's the one I would just be getting done at this point.
Yeah, I think my theory is here that basically between Martinez, Rafinha, and Tielemans, that maybe we can only do 2 of those. Maybe we've only got the budget for 2, and I've got a feeling maybe Tielemans is 3rd on that list. Which is not to say awful, don't want him, like really good, be more than happy to quote unquote end up with him. Mm-hmm. But that effectively, if we could, we'd do Martinez and Rafinha. Now, I think the Rafinha thing feels a bit Simpsons analogy incoming. It's a little airborne. It's still good. It's still good. As Homer runs after
you've
suckling
hit your quota.
pig.
You've hit your quota.
I think it's very, very obvious that he's waiting for Barcelona, to the point that it almost feels like not really worth doing it anyway, even if Barcelona can't rustle up the cash, because those signings always just feel a little bit wrong, like when someone clearly wants another club more and then they kind of just settle on you. I don't know, like maybe we do it and you ask me this time next year and he scored 15 goals, then I'd feel differently about it. But do you know what I mean? Like I sometimes feel, and I don't think that's just like a pride thing, because I'm not naive enough to think that every footballer in the world wants to come to Arsenal as their first choice.
But Tim,
or
isn't that
like
a bit like Clive and Halle Berry? I mean, he's not with Halle Berry, but he's happily married, and he said his wife was decent.
Exactly. Just
here we go.
A ringing endorsement.
I've just been buried live on the podcast.
He's just been Halle buried alive on the podcast.
Don't worry, I'll edit it out, Clive. Oh wait, we don't edit the podcast. Sorry, mate.
But you know, like I'm sure we've signed a lot of very good players over the years for whom like Arsenal wasn't absolutely strictly their first choice. But like when it's this obvious, sometimes I think it does feel a little bit, yeah. But then again, you know, having said that, like I said, I would still prefer another scorer, another player that creates threat in this team. But yeah, that's my read on it, Elliot, that Arsenal have got these 3 quite firm targets and think that they can probably only do 2 of them, and maybe just letting the Tielemans one hang until one of the other 2 is definitely dead.
Yeah, well said. By the way, like I do think, Paul, that there's still a lot to do. I mean, I feel positive about what we've done so far, but looking at the landscape around us, I do feel there's a lot to do. And this is where I wanted to sort of transition the conversation to a bit. You know, last season, there was the joke, everyone knows the first 3 games don't matter. The first 3 games don't matter, right? Because the first 3 games were terrible, and the less said about them, the better. And some of that was down to a COVID crisis, but some of that was down to us not getting the business done in time. But it was 3 games. There are 5 Premier League games in August this season. 5. And they're 5 games in which we have, I think, the opportunity to be favorites or slight favorites in every single one of them. It is a massive opportunity to put points on the board in a season that will be stopped midway through for a World Cup and really feel like we're in the thick of things. It is also a massive opportunity to come out of August needing to play catch-up, having had a reasonably easy period of our fixture list behind us. Last season, it wasn't just that we lost 3 games. Sure, we lost to Brentford away. The other 2 were Chelsea and City. We could have had all our players in and lost those anyway. These are games we want to be picking up points. I usually am inclined to say, transfer windows aren't like supermarkets. You kind of have to get what you can get, and it can't always be done before the season because, unfortunately, the window's open until the end of August. I get it. I think there is immense incentive for clubs to be done before the season starts this season with 5 games in August, and I think it is sort of incumbent upon the club to get it done. Paul, I know that's such a fan perspective, get it done. Like you could just walk into the store and get it done, but there's too much on offer here in August to not be prepared for it, is my view.
Yeah, I think that's right. The only saving grace last season was it was Chelsea and City in the first 3 games. It felt like the end of the world. And in terms of performances, it kind of was the end of the world. But
yeah,
City and Chelsea, it's like, well, that'll happen to a lot of clubs. The saving grace, I think, here is we can put out a really strong 11. It's just not an 11 that's going to see it through the season. So it buys us a little bit of time. But I do agree it's incumbent on us. I think I was pushing you hard to get the GoFundMe to have Edu pushed out of the club last season for too much barbecuing because I was getting nervous. Also, I saw it as a cry for help.
Barbecuing.
Yeah.
He loves it.
And so he's gone a little easier on the barbecuing. I'm sure we're working like crazy. I think this is a huge season. They all are. But this is the season for me. You got to capitalize on what we came out of last year from. You got to make the moves. I don't think this is a big season like other seasons. Time's a ticking. These guys with their contracts, it's the old, he's only 22. Before you blink, he's 24. And that, a lot of our 23, 24s are about to be 25 and beyond. And we'll hold on to them and keep them if we're making the progress. And we need some key players here But I do think we have a little bit of time in the sense of better to get the right players, but I wouldn't leave it till the end of the window. I'm surprised on the Tielemans one. I think there's a dimension to deals that we're waiting on, where there is a bit of strategy that we don't factor in. If we go for Tielemans now, we'll attract Man United who are watching him too, and they go because we're going. And we've seen a bit of that with Lisandro Martinez. And there's a lot of this registering interest, but there's no bid. But it seems like everybody kind of know it's coming, and we're playing cat and mouse. And I'm sure they're aware that there's other potential players on, for example, Tielemans, and there's rumors about Man United, but it could be somebody else. And the sooner you go, it's kind of like the mouse in his hole that darts across the room, knowing there's a cat watching him. It's about picking the right moment. I think there is cat and mouse. Will United?
If it's my cats, every moment is the right moment.
Yeah.
Those mice are in no peril.
Sure, that's not helpful at all. Thanks, Elliot. Yeah. And where's the cat and mouse with? It's with Leicester. If they go now, they might end up with a bidding war, and Man United may back off anyway, but we end up paying not 25, and people are saying, well, just pay the 30. Well, it may not be 30. It could end up in 40. Or 45 if you get into a bidding war, and then you got to let them go. So I think they're looking for the chips to settle, less from, say, the Man United in this deal, more from the, hey, if we're negotiating one-on-one with Leicester for Tielemans, and with Lisandro Martinez, there's a bit of that. With Rafinha, kind of went that way too. I don't think we wanted those deals necessarily to happen when they did, but now you got multiple bidders, and now Ajax are sitting on it saying more and more. So, there are dimensions we don't see. It's very frustrating, but it's not simply a question of, hey, let's just slap down another 5 million with Leicester and get it done. It won't get done because United can match that, and Leicester will say, we're not happy with 5. We're not going to tell you what the number is, and the number may be whatever they can get a market going for. So there's a dimension we don't know with these things. I'm sure it's occurred to Edu and Arteta they'd like these deals done early, but they're not done.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. What we're going to do is we're going to get a deal done early and let Paul go now.
Yeah.
So he will just be turning off his camera and his microphone, but in spirit, his audio track will still be here so that I have a podcast to put out later. So Paul's on Twitter, Pause My Pants.
Woohoo!
Woohoo, indeed. Clive, how do you feel about this issue? The fact that there is very much a huge prize on offer for Arsenal in August. A lot of points that are gettable if we hit the ground running and ready to go. And the extent to which it is fair as fans to just bang the table and say, you need to get the business done before the season, while recognizing that, to Paul's point, yeah, they get it. I doubt they're sitting there going, if it takes till the end of August, no big deal. It's just 5 games. I'm sure they're not sitting there saying that, but maybe, how many millions of pounds is every point worth in the Premier League, right? You finish one place higher, you get a few more millions of pounds. You could probably literally measure the extra million it might be worth to Tielemans or to Martinez or to Rafinha, whoever it is, if it got you 3 extra points in August. You know what I mean? Because last season, that would have been worth 50 million pounds because we'd be in the Champions League. And I bet you'd be willing to pay a little more then. So how do we address this issue that we got to be out of the blocks fast in August, maybe more than usual given the points in the month?
Yeah, so hands up, I was one of the people that looked at the situation last year and said, it doesn't matter. We're playing the European Champions League finalists, and they were buoyant. Chelsea just spent 100 million on Lukaku. They stomped into our place and beat us up. Brentford was a unique situation. We weren't prepared for that game. We had the party injury at Chelsea pre-season game. We were not in shape. We didn't have our signings. We were not ready. And Tim will tell you, there's been many of first games we've not been ready. All right, so this one I dismissed it because we made 6 signings, and yeah, we recovered and we ended up being in a decent place. But you know what? Spurs had 3 1-0 wins in those first 3 games. That's 9 points, right? And so these points do matter. And people that slap me around for saying the season didn't start in September, I hear what you're saying, but that was last year. This year, I feel differently. This year, you look at the schedule, look at the fact we're starting early. Look at who we're playing, mate. We need to be ready day one. It's imperative we're ready day one. There can be no excuses, as there were previously. We have a transfer structure in place. Our scouting's in place. We've had time. We know what we're about. Our strategy's clearer. Our playing style is clearer. We've laid the base of the cake with the young players. We need to do our work now. We need to be ready on the first game of the season. And I have less tolerance for excuses this year, from the start. I really do. I think it's important to set us up. We know we've got a break coming in November time for the World Cup. So the season is unique, and you don't want Arsenal fans to be sitting there for 6 weeks of the World Cup, and we're not started well. And a lot of the teams we're playing in the early phases are teams we should beat. So let's beat them. Let's be ready day one. And I'm with you. I think it's incredibly important this year, and to set a better tone than we have on many starts over recent years. I don't think we've been prepared on or off the pitch for the first phase of the season. So that needs to change.
Yeah, well said. Tim, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, nothing to add to that, really. And I kind of agree.
Makes for terrible podcasting. I'm just going to throw it out
It
there.
does indeed. Because we had... With the Brentford game last year, that was kind of unfortunate as well, with the COVID thing, and Arsenal was scrambling to get the game postponed in the hours leading up to it. And you look at our front three that day, it was Martinelli, Balogun, and who played on? Was it Pepe? Yeah, Pepe. Saka started on the bench. Smith Rowe at number 10, just unrecognisable. I think honestly, we even if we don't get our business done before the end of August, I'm going to say this tentatively, I do think we'd be in a better position than we were then, which is not certainly to say, which is not to say that it would be all right to not have at least another signing in place by August 6th. But that was we introduced 4 players into the starting 11 straight away after signing them. That's a big change. And guys like Kolasinac playing, Chambers, guys who didn't finish the season with us because they were so they had one foot and one leg out the door already. So I don't think we'd quite be in that situation. And at least we'd have a bit of continuity. And look, we've sorted the most important position, I think, in the centre forward.
Yeah, so I think we all agree with that, yes.
Yeah. So I don't think it would be quite as bad. But at the same time, it's the distraction as much as anything else. One of the things I really, really don't like about the transfer window bleeding into the first few games of the season is not even I'm thinking this much more selfishly than from the team's perspective, even from a fan perspective, it makes the games seem secondary. And all of the games are viewed through the prism of the transfer window, and there's a certain amount of justification to that at times. But like there was last year, there was total justification for that. But personally, I hate that. I really hate that because I want to be absorbed by and involved in the games. I hate how it all becomes dominated by transfers, and that's all the managers are asked about. And that's kind of, especially if you need to get shit done, that's kind of all you think about, and you feel like you're in limbo. And I just really don't like that. Even when we signed Ozil, which was at the time really, really exciting, it really was for everyone. But I even hated the way we won a North London derby the day before that signing, and the talk was still about potentially signing Ozil, which is not, which I completely understand, by the way. It's not, I'm not having a go at anyone for doing that. I just hate that it has the opportunity to happen, that
to mean more than the actual football.
Yeah, exactly. I really wish that they were just completely separate, or at least separated out timeline wise. But obviously it has an impact on the team as well. And I think what Arsenal's strategy going into this summer would be let's take the low-hanging fruit first, which that's the part they've done. Then, the couple of deals we're going to haggle over, and then the season starts. And what I think the position that Arsenal will have tried to set themselves up for is after August. What August is about is then getting people out the door. And that's not Arteta's business. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't have to be involved in that in any way, shape or form. That is pure Edu and everyone else. That's like, we know who we want to lose. We know who we need to lose. Go away and do it, and I'll coach the team, and I've got my team, and everyone else, you concentrate on annexing them because you don't have to coach a team to win games during this time. And actually, it's been kind of interesting that Arteta wasn't in any of the photos for any of the other signings, bar Gabriel Jesus, which I take to be quite innocent, just because like training hadn't started and things like that yet, and maybe he was on holiday or whatever while Edu wasn't. But like I think that essentially the idea will be that come August the 6th, he has pretty much all of his players in place, maybe one piece not, but that essentially he doesn't want to be involved, or the aspiration is for him to not be involved in any way, shape or form in any transfer related stuff after like the Seville game at the Emirates.
Yeah, and I think the danger there that you've hit on is like, once you get into the point where Mikel is fully doing the coaching, which I guess is kind of starting now as they ride their bicycles to training this morning, he's just got less bandwidth to be involved in the transfer side of things. And there are diminishing returns, right? The more he has to think about transfers and put time into that, the less good it is for preparation. The more his plans for how he wants to set up the team are impacted by moves that haven't been made yet, the less good it is for preparation. Maybe there's a player that he'd like to try at left 8, but it sort of depends if we get Tielemans because he wants to see him in there, right? Like, all of these things get better if they're done sooner. And again, we get that it's not just a store you walk into and pick players off the shelves, but there is a balance. And sometimes just pay an extra few million is easy to say when I have no million. But like, there's a lot of millions on the line if you drop 3 points and you find yourself finishing 5th instead of 4th. So we're thinking about, I mean, the day starts, the season starts with games we can win, and how we start the season matters, just like how you start your day matters. And the best way to start your day is with AG1 from Athletic Greens. Haha. Hey, I do it. Now, the fact that I do it isn't the only reason to do it, but it should be enough. Let's be honest. That should be good enough. It's funny. It was recommended to me by my doctor friend, Ian, before it was recommended to me by Athletic Greens themselves. And one of the things that I absolutely love about it is that I can replace all of the stuff I was taking, because I don't want to make it sound like I'm 90 years old and I had the pill cabinet or whatever, which, eventually, let's face it, we're all headed that direction. But I had the probiotic, and I had the thing for mental focus, and I had the thing for, my multivitamin. And now I can just take AG1 and replace it all, because it's got 75 high quality vitamins. It's got minerals. It's got whole food sourced superfoods, as opposed to, stuff that's just like lab created, probiotics and adaptogens. And so it's easy to take. You put it in 12 ounces of water. It drinks down really nicely. I mean, it's got like a little hint of vanilla, I guess I would describe. I have some gut health issues, which it's been really helpful for. I think that's one of the things I like most about it, for focus and energy. I drink a lot of coffee, and I find that I like to drink a lot of coffee still. But as the day wears on, I definitely think that the AG1 is something that helps me throughout the day without having to go to that cup of coffee after lunch, that's a dangerous cup of coffee to do. A couple of things that you might like about it, if you have any specific lifestyle needs. If you're keto, if you're paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, it's lifestyle friendly. Less than a gram of sugar. Supports better sleep quality and recovery, mental clarity and alertness. It is less than the cup of a fancy price of coffee, a fancy cup of coffee a day, he says, needing more of mine, I guess. And it has over 7,000 5-star reviews. Okay. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health, arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/vision. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/vision to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Now, your body's healthy, get your business healthy. The way you get your business healthy is have the best talent. Works for Arsenal, works for you. And you do it by going to Indeed, the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. That's right. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites. That's a silly thing to do. Your time is money. Haven't they told you that? Find great talent faster through time-saving tools like Indeed Instant Match assessments and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data. Imagine if Arsenal could do that in the transfer market. Hey, I'm looking for a left 8. Boom. They're the candidates we need. And you only pay if they meet your must-have requirements. One of the things I love about Indeed virtual interviews, leaning into the fact that many people want to work remotely now, and we are in a hybrid work environment. And so the interview process needs to match that because it allows you to find more talent further afield, maybe from the home office, people who want to work remotely and who you're willing to hire to work remotely. So virtual interview saves you time. You can message, schedule, interview top talent seamlessly all in one place. Indeed makes it easy to connect with your applicants. No need to install anything. It works right from your browser. After using Indeed's virtual interviews, most employers said it saved them days of hiring time. Again, days. Just like we need to save days in the transfer market by getting our players now, you can save days with virtual interviews. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to get to hire great talent fast. Sign up for Indeed now and get a $75 credit towards your first sponsored job. Plus, earn up to $500 extra in sponsored job credits with Indeed's virtual interviews. Visit Indeed.com/Blue Wire to learn more. Claim your credits at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed, Clive? Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Nailed it. Clive, 5 frickin' subs, dude. It's going to change the world, and you've been dying to tell us how. I would love to hear how. And I do think, by the way, this is an area where having some extra youthful talent can be good because you might be able to find more minutes from them. But I do think it puts a premium on having more senior players because more players are going to get on the pitch. You're going to be able to get more players in when you need them. And having more players that are really ready to contribute right now may be valuable. Because in the past, you might have said, look, Clive, I might have said, I can't add this 27-year-old because I've only got 700 Premier League minutes to give him. He wants more playing time than that. I'm not going to be able to find it. Now maybe you can bump that up to 1,500 minutes with all the sub rules and the fact that we're back in Europe. And so you may be able to add that extra prime age talented player because you can find more ways to integrate them into your plans, to use them to spread minutes out and keep players fit for that run-in, which obviously would have been helpful last season. So those are just some of the things I see coming down the pike. What's the 5 sub rule mean to you?
Oh, we could do a whole podcast on this and so many different angles, right? But the one that comes to my mind
Sum it up in 90 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
There is a lot of angles, and I'm sure once I start, Tim will add on, etc., and we can go again.
I hope so. That's how podcast works.
I'll give you an angle that's fresh in my mind. Also, I love my rugby, right? So there's an England scrum half called Danny Care, and Danny Care is a really sharp scrum half that's played about 80 times for England. About 55 of them have been from the bench. I've got approximate numbers there. And the reason why, when the game is broken up late on, his speed and ability and quick service is just so beneficial. And he's known as what they call a finisher. And we started the podcast talking about that link. And the first thing that jumped off the screen is his intensity and speed. And you think, could he be a finisher? Now, we'd look at that transfer link and basically just not dismiss it, but we sort of half dismissed it because we see lots of rumours. But maybe we'll be looking at players now, intense players, game-changing players that can make impacts in small bursts and then be doubled up on for the whole 90. Do you know what I mean? I think Vieira and Odegaard, can you imagine them sharing a game, in that slot and what we'll get? And I think it opens up possibilities to get maximum output from a position where potentially you've had to carry players in the last 20 because they're a little bit tired, they can't quite get to their game. I think there's so many ways to approach a game now. You can start a game in a certain way, get to half-time, particularly big away games, then say, right, we can go again now, do something else. You can start a game in a 3 at the back system, for example, get to a period where you have a level of confidence and then say, right, I now know where I need to add my energy. I now know what they're doing. I can look at them while we're playing, not concede, and then say, okay, that's where the dope is. That's where the weak point is. Let me attack that with my intensity, my speed, my pressing. You can start games and be really aggressive for half an hour and really blow out your forwards pressing wise, and then maybe add more structure later on. there's so many things you can do depending on the game, depending on the game plan, on the opposition, home and away, etc. Going to Northwest, unique circumstance. Going to Newcastle, big crowd, unique circumstance. You can approach games with multiple game plans in your mind. And every coach will have his game model based on their own principles. But I think with the 5 subs, you expand on your game model. And if you're smart, you can add variations to your game. And I think it's important that for me, this is my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but it's important we shared we're the Arsenal, we turn up, 4-3-3, we do our thing. I think there are times in your year when you are lagging, when you're a bit tired, a player may not be sparkling. There's no harm in looking at a game. There's no harm in waiting for a game to come to you, seeing what it's offering you, and then taking the game in the second half. And I think it was so interesting to see the maturity and the variation by which Arteta approaches these scenarios. In the 5 sub drinks break Arsenal, he was excellent. In that period, he was excellent. He can see a game and adjust. So I'm hoping that continues. And I'm so interested to see the new trends that develop in recruitment and how people approach a game over 90 minutes.
That I agree with. I think it's really interesting. Like, I suddenly woke up today and realized, like, what if Pep's bored of, like, juego de posición and he's changing? I mean, I don't know about Calvin Phillips as a positional footballer. I don't know about Erling Haaland as that. Maybe they're changing. Maybe they've got a different idea about how they want to play. Maybe 5 subs means that teams that use intensity and athleticism wind up having an edge versus teams that use a more technical approach. Because how many times, Tim, have we been in a game where teams pressing us like mad and we go, if we can just ride this out, we'll get to the second half, they're going to tire and we can take them. But with 5 subs, can teams, because 5 subs, you're changing half your outfield players, literally. Can you freshen it up enough to stay more intense in a pressing structure more? Can you, really put these more technical sides that try to play a more precision game under threat by just going at them with raw PNP, baby, pace and power for 90 minutes? I think that may impact recruitment and maybe impact the way we think about handling games. Do you give players halves more, right? Do players share games one half and another half and say, I want you to run your legs off for 90 minutes at this guy, target this guy, and you're coming off at halftime, and then another guy's going to target this guy. So it definitely, I know there's been a lot of talk that it favors the big clubs because they have the deeper bench, they have more talent. I think it can favor any club that decides that they want to acquire athletes and use that athleticism to their advantage while keeping it fresh over 90 minutes. I don't know. Maybe that's an oversimplification.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel I should invoke the spirit of Paul since he's not here and say that the other team gets to make 5 subs too. Yeah. So that kind of will wait till they're tired. Maybe that doesn't work as well anymore. But I think this is really fascinating, and you'll see the personality of coaches more. I think we are seeing it in the transfer market. Not just because of a World Cup in the middle of the season, but like just look at the behaviour of Arsenal and Tottenham in terms of Arsenal were going to go big for Rafinha, like we've discussed a million times. Tottenham has spent a lot of money on Richarlison, despite having like a very established front three. That's not what Tottenham usually do. They wouldn't usually go and spend £50 million on someone who, strictly speaking, might not play every game. And I think a lot of it is because of this idea. And I think we have seen this type of thing, and I just think we'll see it more with kind of 3 subs. I remember there was a season where Ferguson did this with United, where in away games he used to start like Fletcher and Giggs on the wings. Giggs in his kind of early to mid 30s, so not quite as dynamic and attacking as he used to be, and positionally very intelligent. Darren Fletcher, a bit like Ray Parlour for us, like more of a central midfielder, but just, a bit more conservative. And then he'd bring on like Nani at half time for Fletcher, for example, or or take off central midfield. And like he very distinctly had for this one season, like a beginning and a finishing team. And I think we'll see more and more of that. And some of the players, in that period where we had in the kind of post-pandemic football, when City, for example, really changed the way they played, they really adapted and pressed far less in that like post-pandemic kind of season and got their league title back doing it. But in the period when we were like using 5 subs, I just remember Willock finishing loads of games, for example, because probably not, I don't know, quote unquote, enough of a secure player for 90 minutes. But like the game's very different in the last 20 to 30 minutes. It's much more broken play. And so you can have those kind of broken play players for that period of the game. It's a bit like obviously the Women's Euros has just started, and England Lionesses, for example, they've got this kind of fascinating thing where they've got a couple of slightly problem positions where they don't have like a starting 11 that makes you go, yep, everyone slots into every one of those roles perfectly. They've got a couple of like good players but square pegs in round holes. But what they've got is they're stacked with wide forwards, basically quick wide forwards. And so what has been happening often in their games is for the first 60 minutes or so, you think they don't really have control of this game. They're not playing badly, but they don't have control. And then they just bring on all these fast wide forwards for the last half an hour and blow people away. And not what happened last night, but what happened in most of their warm-up games. And I think you'll see a lot more of this. You might see a game like a team to start the game to contain it before leaning into the more chaotic period. You might have it completely the other way around. You might go a bit more chaotic, a bit more up and at 'em at the beginning and seek to control the last kind of half an hour or 20 minutes or so. I think we're going to see so much more of this. And like you say, it probably does favour the bigger clubs, but ultimately, to get something like this through, at least 14 of the 20 Premier League teams have to vote for it, and they did. And that shows you that most of these coaches want this. Even the kind of the mid-table teams, the smaller teams, they all want this. And I think it's because coaches, it gives them a bit more control over proceedings, basically. And if you're a coach, probably the most frustrating thing is, once I give my team talk, all I can really do is shout a couple of things from the sidelines, which, by the way, in a Premier League stadium, they're not going to hear anyway. So if you're a coach, I imagine it's very appealing as well, that idea that you've got a little bit more control over things. So, yeah, I think it will make the games physically different, but also it will make them, I think we've kind of already moved towards this model of coaches being very, very influential anyway. And I think this is just a further step in that direction.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some 85th minute subs in Premier League games this season where fans are going, who's coming on? Clive, final thought on this?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, one of the reasons why I wanted it originally was everyone else was doing it for one. Player welfare is a big thing for me. We've all just seen our players play the Nations League and then have 3 weeks in Mykonos and they're due back at training next week and then off to America again. And then they're going to play up until the World Cup and then go to another camp, play the World Cup, come back 6 days later back into the league system again. I mean, it just can't go on like this, right? As with competing FIFA, UEFA, Champions League, we all know the score with the different organisations competing against each other. The way you mitigate that is to reduce minutes, broaden things, look after people. I wonder how many minutes, I probably should have told you beforehand, but how many minutes has Raheem Sterling played his football career? He's 26, 27 going to Chelsea. So he's got a fantastic footballer. I'm watching his career really closely because he's played a lot of football in his life. Yeah. And I just don't want to see that happen to any of ours. And so that's one thing. And I think it offers a different plate of food for us all to watch. I think it's going to be so exciting.
I don't know about you, but I eat my plate of food. I don't just watch it, Clive. You can probably tell that.
A different thing for us to watch, and
analyze.
When you have 3 subs on the bench and people say, they're not even using their 3 subs. Well, sometimes you can't. You need to save one for an injury, and so you get 2 players come on. You got a squad of 25. Do you know what I mean? it changes everything from the dressing room. It really does. And the coaching angle, I'm really excited and interested to see how it works. And to be honest, it's not different. I mean, I think it's the Champions League already got 5 subs. All the UEFA competitions have got 5 subs. So we see it, and I think it's exciting. I think it's really exciting what Real Madrid did last year in the Champions League. I'm sure they did. And so, how they started the team old and finished it young, and it was really, really good. So, I'm really excited to see something new and also protect our players, which is one of the most important things for me because it's a very short career.
Yeah. I mean, we are in that interesting period now where preseason's going to start. We've got a game tomorrow. We're going to start analyzing the actual football again. The squad still feels very much up in the air with a lot of work to do. And as those two things start to intersect, I think the anxiety level starts to ratchet up. People start to see what's not there when we're on the pitch playing games, even if they're meaningless games. I know Tim considers preseason meaningful, but the rest of us know they're meaningless. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to a lot, though. I am still looking forward to a lot with Arsenal in this season. I'm looking forward to taking my Twitter account private when Eden Zagrova wins the Golden Boot. That's going to be a good day, leading us to a title. So lots of fun stuff ahead. I think we'll leave it there for now. We will get back in the scouting video game to put the jinx on some things, maybe get a Milinkovic-Savic scouting video out there and ensuring that he doesn't come to the club. It does look like Chelsea are just randomly bidding on anyone Man United likes or anyone of value. I mean, Frankie de Jong now to Chelsea, Ronaldo to Chelsea. I mean, who knows what's going on over there? But at least they're keeping it interesting for those of us watching from the sidelines. Tim's on Twitter, Stubberdo. Thank you very much, Tim.
My pleasure as always.
Clive's on Twitter, ClivePFC. Thanks, Clive.
Thank you very much.
I am off to Portugal. That's right. I am off to Portugal tomorrow, where I will be for 3 weeks. So we will still be podcasting regularly, both here and on the Patreon side. And if you're not on Patreon, I hope you'll join us there. I think you'll find that we do a lot of neat stuff there. And there's the Discord, which has a lot of cool info in it. But if you can't do that and don't want to do that, I'm just so glad you're here. So thank you either way. Tim, I am warning you, coming back in 3 weeks, speaking that Portuguese like a native speaker, man. So you're going to get pushed.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I don't think you got anything to worry about. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. Take care of yourself. Take care of someone else. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10. Transfer window nil.